Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new time with Adobe Live. I'm Rocky Roark and this is Kevin Yang, and we are here for 2 fun-filled days of creating both in Adobe Illustrator and Adobe XD. How you doing, Kevin?
It's your
first
good.
time.
Yeah, it's my
on
first
Adobe.
time. I'm a little nervous, but I'm also really excited to show you all some really cool stuff.
You know, like before we get started, before we start talking about, what we're going to be doing, let's also talk about, what we're going, or the next challenges that we're doing today. We're doing a challenge today, as well as a, I had a brain fart, a portfolio review. So let's take a look at the challenge for today. Are we looking at challenge today?
You can look at the schedule.
I can look at the schedule. Okay. Well, today's challenge has to do with, it's a search, right, for a travel app, creating a new search experience in Adobe XD, right? Or is it Photoshop? Adobe XD. Thank you very much. And that is a major fault at me, thinking that we were going to switch to a splash screen. I should have asked that before. It happens. So beyond that, if you guys stick around, we're going to have in about 30 minutes a little giveaway. And it's going to be a fun giveaway, but you guys have to be active in the chat in order to get this giveaway. It's with Sticker Mule for $100. Is it 100 or 100?
100 stickers.
100 stickers with Sticker Mule, 3-inch by 3-inch stickers. I don't know about you guys, but I love Sticker Mule, as you guys can tell from all of my stickers on my computer, all Sticker Mule. But let's get a little bit started and let's talk a little bit about, ourselves. So, Kevin, why don't you tell everybody about yourself? I think some people should know who I am, but I want to hear first, about you.
Yeah, so currently I am a visual designer over at Riot Games in Los Angeles. I do a mix of things. I like to do UI design, but I also do illustration. I've recently been getting into like 3D modeling and things like that. I don't know, I like all different parts of design. I'm always super curious and I always want to learn, but day to day, yeah, I just focus a lot on, doing, visual design for, our esports product over at Riot. If anyone plays League of Legends or watches, we basically work on the watch experience over there. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool because when Adobe first reached out about me being on the stream again, and for those of you who might not know who I am, I'm Rocky Roark. I'm an illustrator and designer. I host my own podcast, YouTube channel, and it's really, it's something that I've done for a long time. And I think this is my 5th time on Adobe Live. This time I'm actually hosting, and hopefully I do a lot better as the stream goes on. But, the cool thing is when Adobe came to me and they were like, hey, we want you to come on with someone to do XD, I was like, great. I didn't have anyone in mind, but they were like, hey, we got Kevin Yang here. And I'm like, oh, I've known Kevin for years. So it's really cool to have him on. This is his first time, and hopefully he'll be on here much more in the future. Okay, so Kevin, do you want to talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing today?
Yeah, so I thought it would be really cool to kind of walk everyone through what my process would be like for designing a chess app. I thought it would be a good subject because there's some illustration involved, but there's also a lot of cool different states. And I think it's well understood, most people understand the game of chess or the idea of it. And yeah, so we're gonna be walking you through a few different screens, how to maybe make some of the pieces too, and on day 2, if we have enough time, also walk you through some of the interaction in After Effects. I think, at least I've talked to a lot of people and there seems to be a little bit of confusion between how to get UI into After Effects and how to kind of make it really come to life. So that's something I'm really excited to show you guys.
Yeah, that was one thing that when we were talking about what we wanted to create, which honestly I had no idea what I wanted to create during this live stream, and Kevin was like, it would be really cool if we created some sort of chess app. And I was like, okay, I'm behind that. And I think one thing that's cool about today's stream than some of the others is that not only do you have someone working directly in Adobe XD, but you also have someone working in Adobe Illustrator. So I think we should probably get started. Would you like to jump in and start working on your app?
Yeah, sure. I guess I'm just gonna make maybe let's do an iPhone X, and then Yeah, I guess the first thing that we should do is like maybe make a list of things that, are gonna go into this app. So I think obviously we're gonna need like some kind of home or landing screen, and then maybe some of the components that go into it are like we want your name or username potentially, because no one uses their real name on the internet.
So you're kind of creating a little bit of like a site map.
Yeah, it's like a site map
us.
or like just an outline, I guess, of things that we might want. So stats would be a good thing on a home screen, like maybe your wins, losses, maybe your ranking or elo. I think we're gonna need like a few buttons, like one for just playing a game.
And while Kevin's going through and he's setting all this stuff up, I just want to reiterate one more time that in about 25 minutes or so, we're going to be having a big giveaway of 100 free stickers from Sticker Mule. Also, for those of you who might not win the giveaway, if you go to www.stickermule.com/Adobe Live 19, you can get 10 stickers for $1. I don't know about you guys, but that's actually a really great deal, especially if you're wanting to try out some sort of new design or new logo. This is actually a really great deal.
Yeah, so I'm still roughly just outlining everything. Like, I think we've kind of fleshed out kind of the home page. And now I'm just kind of going through like what a match screen would look like. And then something that I kind of did some research, like a list of moves that people want to see, like kind of like the history of a game. So like a move list. And I think this is all pretty good right now.
I think this is like a good start, right?
Yeah, and then we can obviously flesh this out more like as needed as we go through everything.
Yeah, Celia says that she's actually, I believe it's she, is very excited about case studies, and she's actually familiar with Riot. And she's learning modeling in ZBrush. Have you ever used ZBrush?
I've never used ZBrush. That's definitely a question for like the concept artists or the game designers.
What do you use for your 3D modeling that you've done?
All my work is done in Cinema 4D. I don't actually do any 3D modeling for Riot. It's just something that I picked up on the side because I think it's really cool. I also think like in terms of marketing design, we're seeing kind of a big shift to like 3D elements. I kind of have seen it on a few different sites and I think it looks super cool and I want to be able to kind of create those visuals as well.
Yeah, I've dabbled a little bit in 3D modeling, but I could never get into it. I think that one thing as creatives is that we like to try out so many different tools, so many different software, so many different areas of design. And even Kevin mentioned himself that he delves in a lot of different things. And I think that it's a great way to push your creativity. Yes, Vix, 3D is so hard. I remember I had to use 3D in college and it was a pain.
Yeah, I mean, 3D is one of those things that I think it could be really scary to get into. But I think once you get the ball rolling, you can kind of start piecing, like once you can make a few things, I think it's easier for your mind, like to wrap your mind around like how you might make some other things. So
yeah,
even though it looks really intimidating, I definitely advise people to try to get into it. I think it's it definitely feels really intimidating, but once you get into it, I think you'll be solid.
It looks like there's a phone wars going on with Android and iPhone. Which is your phone of choice?
So I was on the iPhone for a really long time, but I now have Pixel, so I'm Android now, so I kind of play both sides.
I am strictly iPhone. I am an Apple addict. You know, I've got the MacBook Pro here. I've got an iPad Pro. I've got an iPhone. I have Apple Watch, AirPods. I have almost everything except for an Apple TV.
Oh, wow.
That's the only Apple product I have not gotten.
In XD, you can hold down Option to see kind of the spacing of everything. I think that's like one of the most helpful things when I'm making anything is just to see like how far everything is apart from each other. I think that's how you kind of generate hierarchy a lot of times. Like I always, as I'm making things, I always ask myself like, how close or how far away does the thing that I'm currently working on need to be from like the things around it? And I think that's like one of the easiest gut checks that you can do when it comes to layout, because it's pretty tricky, honestly, a lot of times. Like, I don't know if anyone else has this issue, but I'll be working on something and I just can't get it to look right, no matter how hard I keep, how many times I keep moving all the things around. It's pretty tough, but I think that's just like a trick of mine that I've done over time to kind of help me work through some of those issues.
Yeah. So I think while Kevin is setting things up here, I'm actually going to jump into Adobe Illustrator, and I'm going to start playing around and working on creating some chess pieces. And I've already gone through and created a couple of pieces just for examples, but I'm going to try and share with you all how I go about creating these pieces out of just simple shapes. So I'm going to jump in to Illustrator here. And you guys can already see here, this is actually what the final pieces will look like. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit for you guys so you guys can see. We have the white piece and I call it a navy piece. I don't want to say it's a black piece, but these are kind of like the styles I'm gonna go with. I'm actually gonna jump in here and darken this up a little bit because I noticed that the screen is making it look a little bit wonky. So I'm gonna make this a nice little pink pastel color, just so you guys can see it a little bit more. And what I'm going to start with is I'm actually going to start with this pawn here. And when I highlight this, you guys can see that it's actually just a bunch of shapes using the corner rounded widget. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and recreate this so you guys can see exactly how I go about creating it. So I like to start from the ground up. So I'm going to take a rectangle, and I'm going to do it right about here. And I'm going to take another rectangle. And that's the interesting thing about my process when it comes to creating vector illustrations, is that I predominantly use shapes. It's very rare that I'll actually use a pen tool to create my illustrations, which sometimes will freak people out. So we're going to use just simple shapes, and we're going to kind of build off of that. We're going to start with this base here. And so I'm going to use the Pathfinder, and I'm going to use the Unite option. And I'm actually just going to, I will use the pen tool just to erase these corner anchors here. And I'm going to just select the top 4. Let me actually zoom in because it's a little bit hard to see. I'm going to just select these top 4 points here. And I'm going to use the corner widget up at the top here and just round these off. So if I would have done that with just a rectangle, it probably wouldn't get this crisp of an edge here. So I wanted to have a little bit of a slant in there. And I actually see that I don't like it as much. So I'm going to undo what I just did. Whoops. And I'm going to take these top 2 here, and I'm going to actually press S for scale and hold Option, and I'm going to drag, whoops. I'm going to drag these, which they're wanting to now act very weird. Gotta love technical difficulties. There we go. So I'm actually going to click those. I'm going to press Shift to bring those in. I'm going to take these 2 corners and bring them down. So I see there's a question, would you use the pen tool to shade? I wouldn't use the pen tool to shade. I'll show you how I'm going to go about the shading for this, but I wouldn't use the pen tool for shading for this. There's certain ways you can get around it to where you don't have to use the pen tool. Okay, so this is feeling a little bit better. So now I'm going to go back up. I selected the top 4 points here, and I'm going to go to the corners, and I'm going to round them there. And that's feeling a little bit better. I'm not going to round it that much. I think this is good. It's not going to be exactly the same as what we have over here, but you guys should get the gist of it. So I'm then going to take the rectangle again, and mind you, everything we're doing here so far is just rectangle. There's no actual pen tool. There's no drawing or anything like that. And I'm going to click and I'm going to press Option so that the rectangle comes out from the center. I'm just going to align it somewhere like this. I'm going to use this pre-made piece as a little bit of a judge for the height. I'm going to do it just above where it is here. And again, my favorite shortcut, and this is a little tip for you guys, one of my favorite shortcuts when dealing with points and dealing resizing is just to hit the S, which chooses the scale. And you're able to click and you're able to move just those 2 points in or out very easily when you hold the shift down. So I'm going to hold it to right about here. All right. And we can see here there's one major difference. We have this rectangle here. Let's see. Yes, I believe that is Kaida. I'm sorry, I'm horrible with names. I believe that's your name. Yes, so when I go through with the shadow, I'm gonna actually cut it out just like how you mentioned. So we're gonna go and create, again, pressing the option to create from the center. And then sometimes you don't have to, but I'm gonna just choose the top points here and also round those again. Bring that down, and now we have the base of our pawn here. And then I'm going to go in, and the next piece is this little lip right here. Again, just using the rectangle. The only part of this piece that I will be using a different shape is going to be the top part. And even then I could use a rectangle for that as well. This is kind of like how your illustrations start off, or do you use the pen tool?
Yeah, I kind of always usually start out with shapes, and then I will sometimes use the pen tool to go in afterwards and maybe kind of add a little bit of flair like here and there. Do you remember when there wasn't any rounded corners?
Oh, don't remind me about that. That was the worst. That was. I remember.
Dark times.
Yeah, I remember working in a print shop in high school, and not having the Pathfinder on the version of Illustrator I had, not having rounded corners, which back then rounded corners didn't exist yet, and so I had to go through and use the pen tool for everything. Hence the reason why I don't use the pen tool much often anymore. Okay, so we have this piece right here, and then the last part is what would you call that? Like the head of the pawn?
Yeah, just like the top piece or.
And just to follow with what we've been doing here, where we're just using the shapes, just using a rectangle, I'm gonna use a rectangle for it. And I'm gonna round the corners completely. Boom. So all of that, all this entire piece, and mind you, it doesn't look fully like the original piece I have here. All of these were used with just a rectangle tool. So I think, how are things coming in XD?
Pretty good. So I fleshed out some of the home screen. I definitely want to maybe walk through some of the things that I did. If we could switch over, yeah.
It looks like I saw an interesting question. I've never used 3D illustrations. What could I use them for besides logos? So right now, and you've probably seen this, you actually do a lot, some 3D illustrations, which is really cool. Right now, there's a big shift in styles that startups are using, where they're using a lot more 3D illustrations or isometric illustrations. So using those has become a big part of it. So there are illustrators out there who specialize in just 3D illustrations. So there is a more need to use for those beyond just creating logos.
Yeah, should I go over this? Is there any way?
Yeah, we can switch over to XD. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thank you. So I've kind of built out the home screen a little bit. There's like some pretty cool features in Adobe XD. So for kind of like playing game settings, tournament mode, and trophy case, like I figured since those are all like actionable items, we could put like we can make them as buttons, and then they would trigger a different state. I think a big thing to do, a big like trend that I think sometimes I talk to my manager about and we laugh about is like these huge rounded corners. So I kind of want to, you know, continue that trend here. So we got these ginormous 20 pixel rounded like borders on each of the buttons. And the cool thing about XD is you can build components. So the way components work is I have this one master component where it's basically like a rectangle and then text inside. If I were to edit it, like it edits all of these at the same time. So it's like a great way to speed up your process. And the way you do that is you can just like make anything really, and then you select both things, you right click, and then there's this make component, also Command K. And what it'll do is you'll see this component pop up in the left-hand bar, and then you can just drag out different portions of it. And you can resize them, and you can change how it resizes as well. Like there's a responsive resize feature here. You can either like fix width, fix height. Like if I wanted hello to always be in this corner, I could just pin it to the top and to the left. So now when I resize it, it's always pinned. So you can always like choose different parameters for the things that you're designing. It really helps with responsive design. It cuts down on the number of things you have to remake at different sizes. So if you can think about, like as you're making it, think about like, is what I'm making reusable or not? And I think it just takes a lot of practice, but you'll see the same patterns kind of emerge over and over and over again. So, you know, the more you do it, the more these things are going to be pretty natural to you.
Yeah, and I see like Angbo actually says, I usually work with Photoshop. Should I learn how to use Illustrator for things like this? And I don't know about Kevin, because Kevin also illustrates. I strictly am a vector illustrator. I don't use Photoshop for illustrating. And part of it is because I became very fluent in Illustrator early on, and I haven't been using it, or I haven't been using Photoshop to illustrate nearly as much. Do you have any opinion on that, Kevin?
I mean, I use Illustrator a lot more. That's just how I learned too. I had like definitely a lot more experience with Illustrator. I know you can make amazing things in Photoshop, but I do bring a lot of things over to Photoshop to color correct.
Yeah.
Actually, and I actually do that sometimes with user interface as well, because color is definitely a big struggle for me. Like right now, I'm kind of just picking some colors, and they're gonna look okay, but we can jump into Photoshop actually, and I'll show you how to like color correct in Photoshop, then remap all the colors back into XD. It would be great if like there was like color correction options in XD, and then at the end you just hit remap and it like remaps all the colors for you. I think that would be like a huge lifesaver.
Product suggestion.
But for now, yeah, we'll jump into Photoshop afterwards and kind of tweak the colors a little bit so we can get them to a better spot.
And I saw that there was another comment in the chat where someone was asking, you know, if I'm going to start learning Illustrator, how do I go about doing it? And I think Sam Peterson actually gave a great response. There's so many potential things out there, like using YouTube to learn. I actually learned a lot from YouTube, and there's still things where I'm like, I wonder if I'm doing this correctly, or if there's like maybe another way that I can do it, where I go onto YouTube or I go onto Google. And the great thing about Adobe is that they offer so many tutorials on their own. And then there's other people who also create tutorials on how to do things either better, ways that they've gone through and hacked things through and everything. And I started using Illustrator, I think it was CS. The first one, CS1, was the first one that I used. And the first one I ever had a copy of was, I believe, CS2, and that was the one that I used in my print shop. Let's see.
So just making some colors.
Color is a tricky one. It's something that a lot of people struggle with?
It's super tricky. I think.
Yeah.
I just think I think the best way to get better at it is to look at a lot of different things that you think are cool and try to like look at the colors behind them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's pretty hard to like kind of get a really good grip on color. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Well, and that's one thing that people are always commenting, on Instagram, Dribbble, Twitter, or even when I talk to them, they're always like, you have such a good handle on color. How do you do that? And that's because I immerse myself in color. In my home studio, I have colorful things all over the place. I like to think that I have an eye for color, and like Samuel Ballard mentions, I use Adobe Color a lot. I in fact use, whenever I'm traveling, and if let's say I happen to see a mural on a wall, or I might see a cool illustration in a magazine, I'll take out my phone and I'll use Adobe Capture, and I'll capture color palettes using that. And I'll go through and I'll edit them, I'll tweak them a little bit, and I now have this giant color library that I use when it comes to like doing things, whether, if I was working on a mobile app, which I'm not a UI UX designer anymore, but when I did, I would use those color palettes as a jumping off point. And from there, you kind of go through and you edit and tweak those.
So right here, I'm actually making a different state of the button. So I kind of want to figure out what like a selected state of the button would be. So instead of like, here, I'll go ahead and make this a component and rename it, right? So we have home button and then active, right? I think this is just something I've picked up from work. It's just like naming conventions. And yeah, so a lot of times I'll do like the name of the button, maybe where it is, and then slash, and then the state of it. So we have inactive and active. You can basically drag the components over and it will swap out.
Oh, okay.
And then we can do like something like matchmaking, and then tap to cancel or something. I think.
So I'm gonna cut you off
Yeah.
right there. So we have now 2 minutes before the Chat and Win giveaway for the 100 stickers from Sticker Mule. So if you guys would like to win that opportunity to win 100 stickers from Sticker Mule, 3" by 3" stickers, be active in the chat, sign into Behance, and one lucky person will be chosen, I believe it's at random, to win the 100 free stickers. But if you guys don't win the stickers, don't worry, you can definitely head over to stickermule.com/Adobe Live 19, where you guys can get 10 stickers for $1. Like I said earlier, it's perfect for testing out maybe a new design, or if you guys are putting together a case study, whether it might be for the challenges that we're doing with Adobe Live, or if you're putting a case study together for something that you're creating on your own. This would be a great opportunity because you can go ahead and get those pieces of stickers that you guys can use for photography or putting together that case study. Cool. And we have less than a minute now. So if you guys aren't, be active in the chat, say hello, tell us what your favorite, Adobe software is, but, and get yourself ready to hopefully win 100 free stickers.
That's a lot of stickers.
I know, right? Some people don't realize how many stickers 100 stickers are. That's a great opportunity because especially if you're going to an event like Adobe Max, it's sometimes better to hand out stickers than it is to hand out business cards.
Oh yeah, that's because when you give out a sticker, someone will put it on their laptop, and then anyone who sees the laptop or comes in contact will also kind of see
Hence,
your branding.
all my stickers on my laptop. So, all right, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so I believe we should know real shortly who's the winner. Got a little bit of animation there behind us. Who doesn't love stickers? Everybody loves stickers. I love stickers. Kevin loves stickers. Everybody at Adobe loves stickers.
Yeah, I love stickers. I don't have my laptop with me, but it's covered in stickers.
I know. I actually just added some new stickers to my laptop recently because it was a lot more cleaner. You know, I have a lot of friends who have computers completely covered in stickers, and I just can't do it. We got I love stickers, I love Illustrator. I will always say that my favorite software is Illustrator. That is by far my favorite. It's the one I use the most.
Yeah, I feel like I've developed like a very personal relationship with Illustrator over the years. Yeah, just know all the nooks and crannies of Adobe Illustrator. It's shocking like how much you can do with the software. You know, like when I first got into it.
We have a winner. Arlie E. I can't even pronounce it. You are the winner, Arlie.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congrats. Use those 100 stickers. I'm sure that's going to be amazing. I'm sure you're going to create something amazing. And again, if you head to stickermeal.com/Adobe Live 19, as you can see here, you will get 10 stickers for $1. That is, I think that's a great deal.
Insane deal.
Yeah. I mean, like, they're going to lose so much on shipping that.
Oh, and we're back.
And we're back.
All right, so I've kind of fleshed out a little bit more of the state. So now we have one button that's kind of active. We're gonna kind of use this bar as like a small progress bar that like sits at the bottom of the button. I think personally it just looks really cool. So, and we've also added like a few lines here. I think it'll make more sense once we get to like the interaction part, but I think adding just a little bit of movement to the lines is gonna make this feel really nice. Like it's gonna give the user like a really subtle hint that, hey, something is about to happen.
And you know, it'd be really cool. I don't think we'll have the time to do it, but it'll be really cool to have maybe some sort of like illustrated background for these buttons. Maybe that's something we can do.
Yeah.
We can maybe even have a jam session tonight, you know, in our hotel room and create some stuff and have it ready for tomorrow.
Yeah.
I see that Keita Jones is asking, any tips for someone just getting into UI UX design? How can I get better at my craft? Lots of jobs out there for UX UI designers. So when I first moved out to California, I got a job as a UI UX designer, and I had zero goose egg, no experience whatsoever in UI UX. And the way that I developed that craft and got better at it was through just creating. I started doing daily UI challenges. I started creating marketing pages just for the heck of it. And I was able to learn a lot through just doing. Whenever someone asks me, how do I get better at a certain thing? I say, practice. Just keep creating, keep pushing yourself. And that is by far the best way that you can get better at your craft. Do you have any tips on that?
For me, I kind of started out as like basically an illustrator and a graphic designer. And I worked at a place in New York that gave me the opportunity to do web design, and I think that was kind of my first sort of, it's not quite the same thing as designing user interfaces, but you use kind of the same tools like Adobe XD, and you kind of start figuring out like user behavior and things like that. So that was kind of my gateway into UI UX. Even today, I don't really do much of the UX side of things. Like I work with a really amazing UX designer, and he kind of helps me sort of figure out like the information architecture and kind of like the structure of what goes in each screen or what have you. So we're actually in Photoshop now, and I'm going to kind of color correct this. I'm not gonna be able to explain it that well, but there's an article that my friend Justin Mazzell wrote. It's on Medium. It's called How I Work with Color.
Love Justin Mazel.
And he explains it in that article way better than I ever could. But he explains so he uses it for illustration, but I've kind of repurposed it for just about everything, actually, because I think it's a great way to tweak colors because it's really tough.
Here, why don't you full screen your Photoshop?
Yeah, I will do that. And so I'm really only going to be using this curves layer. And for those of you that haven't really used this before, you can either edit like the RGB values all at once by dragging this white line, or I wish I could make this bigger, but you can kind of go to the individual channels and change the values there. The really good part about doing color correction this way is you can change the hue, but you can also like simultaneously see like the I don't know how to like it's almost like the ramping up of each of the color channels at once. So
are you referring to the value?
Yeah, it's like how the values like accelerate or decelerate almost. And the reason it's good to do it this way is because there's a lot of color palettes that you can't hit unless you kind of can see the values change in this manner, because I could pick like a red and then I could pick like another color that was kind of like the red as my secondary color, but because I'm always in like the red zone, I'm missing a bunch of color palettes along the way, which is why I like to color correct this way, is because you can kind of see all the values changing simultaneously, and you can get to color palettes that you probably wouldn't find otherwise. At least that's kind of been my experience.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing playing with color, and sometimes like there's so many different tricks that I use to go about recoloring illustrations. I never actually bring anything in because I actually know the article you're talking about. Justin Mazel is an amazing illustrator and designer and a friend of ours, and it's really cool to see this type of process of going through and recoloring, because I could take one of my illustrations into Photoshop just like this, and I can play with the curves and try different things as well. So there's so many different applications for it, whether it's branding, illustration, UI, UX. Skies are the limit, really.
Cool. So this isn't perfect, but I'm kind of liking this like corally color a little bit more. I think it's better than the Band-Aid yellow that I was using earlier. Wouldn't want this app to be sponsored by Johnson & Johnson. So now we're just gonna pull it to the side. I'm gonna just remap the colors really quickly. That's why I was kind of explaining earlier in the stream how it would be super cool if we could just remap the colors like automatically, like from the filter. I think that's like something that I feel like a lot of people will get value from. But there's only a few colors here, so it's actually not too bad to just go ahead and just remap all of them. And then we can carry over this color scheme to
yeah, that's very fast.
To the next screen.
So I think while you're doing that, while you're exploring more, I'm actually going to jump back into Adobe Illustrator, and I'm going to share with everybody how I go about adding the extra dimensions that we can see here with these pieces here. So I'm actually going to grab the pawn, the pre-made pawn that I did this morning, and I'm going to come over here. I'm going to paste it, and what I normally do is this. I'll keep this grouped, so I'm going to group this, Command G, and I'm going to keep one layer where everything is grouped together, because I want to make sure that I have it in case I need any one of these individual pieces. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and move a copy of it over so we can keep that live, and then I'm going to go into Pathfinder. I'm going to unite all of these pieces. And so as I alluded to earlier, there's two different ways I could go about doing this. The first one could be going through and doing the half shading, which we see here, or I could start with the other bits of shading here. And generally, I like to use clipping masks in my illustrations. It really depends on what the final output of the illustration is going to be, which type of way of illustrating I'm going to use it. If it's going to be something for web where we're going to have SVGs, then it might be more difficult to have clipping masks or to use certain opacities. So we kind of have to be wary of that. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this, and I'm going to, again, get our friend, the rectangle, and I'm going to start with just doing a shadow right about here. Now, the way that I did this is I actually have here, and we're going to see my way of color. This is my own personal color library. And I'll just scroll through this just so you guys can see how many different color palettes I have here. And if you guys follow me on Instagram, you will see these color palettes so often. Whenever I take a new photo of an illustration, I always include these palettes in there. But I've been collecting all of these over the course of about maybe 5-6 years. So it's been a long time of me just adding new, more and more color palettes. Some of these have been done through Adobe Color. Some of them have been done through Capture, and some of them have just been ones I've created on my own. But I was using, at the start of this, I was using a color palette that I had right here. So what I'm gonna do is, so that we don't have any problems in the future involving using opacities, I'm gonna use this dark navy here. And if you use opacities and you set them to without having a blend mode, they generally will work pretty well when you bring them over into XD or wherever it is the final output's gonna be. So what I'm gonna do is, the reason why I'm using the dark here, so I don't have to use a multiply. So I'm gonna set this, normally I'd probably do about 35%. Might be a little too dark. Actually, no, it actually feels pretty good. Let's see, I saw something. Is there a reason your color palettes are divided up into 5s, or is this just due to the format? So that's due to the format when you use CC libraries. And if there is a way to increase this, I would love that. But right now, you're only allowed to have 5 colors in a row. So each of these is a color palette. And I've gotten away with it in certain areas. You'll see these 2 color palettes here. They're the same color palette. One of them just has a separate color. So when I add these to my swatches, add theme swatches, I can then go into here, and what I just generally do is I just move this over, and now I can just delete this. So now I have that full range of color. Just to give you guys a little bit of a lesson there. So now that I have this one here, I'm gonna go and drag this down, and we're gonna start getting these other ones. I'll have to resize this in a minute, but right now I don't have to. I can resize this to there. I can then try and align as close to this base as possible. Drag it out, decrease it, because we're gonna have a little bit of a highlight right there, so we want this to be thinner. And I'm gonna drag this big one down here because we want it to be a little bit taller for the base. So now I have all these, there's 2 different ways. Actually, we're gonna do one more up here. There's 2 different ways we can go about doing this. We can do it through a clipping mask, or we can use the Pathfinder, divide it, trim it. I'm gonna use the clipping mask. So I'm gonna copy the actual shape here, and then I'm going to lock the shape. I'm gonna paste it in front with Command F, and then I'm gonna select all of these, and I'm gonna hit Command 7 to create a clipping mask. Now, once I have that, then I can go through and I'm gonna create another rectangle, say about this big. And normally what I would do is I would just hit white, and I would set this to about 20%. And it's not bad, but I don't like the contrast, how the contrast looks. If we look at this here, it's actually a blue color instead of a white. So I'm gonna click into here, and I'm going to select the normal blue, and I'm gonna do just some like light color here.
Eric Cruz just asked, do you generally try to keep the shadow heights consistent, or do you just eyeball it? What are your thoughts?
I mainly eyeball it. I don't really, like, because there's something, if you have them all the same, I don't know, it feels a little bit off. When you eyeball it and you do it a little bit different, it feels a little bit more natural.
Yeah, it's kind of the thing where if it looks right, it is right.
Yeah.
So. I know you mentioned using clipping mask versus like using Pathfinder. Are there situations where you would use the Pathfinder over the clipping mask, or are you just generally like a clipping mask person across the board?
I used to be generally a clipping mask. That was what I did for all of these, but there are definitely instances where you have to do Pathfinder. For instance, if I'm working with someone who's working in another software that's not Adobe XD, when I export SVGs and I try and put it in, it literally blows them out to where it releases all of the clipping masks. And there have been instances where someone sends something to me and they're like, is this right? And all you see are just rectangles and circles and triangles all over the place. So now this is something I love, and a lot of people don't really realize this. It's a small little trick, but normally what you would do is you would have to go through, you'd have to create all of these and then do another clipping mask. My favorite little trick, and this is probably super simple, all you have to do is just click on one of the shapes in the clipping mask and then Command F. And notice it pasted it directly into that clipping mask. It's something super small, but a lot of people, they don't know it, or they haven't thought about it before. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to drag this down here, and I think this needs to be a little bit shorter here. And again, just like Kevin said, it's all about eyeballing it. I'm gonna do one more here, and I notice that this actually needs to go up a little bit. And extend this outwards some. There. All right, and so now, there's some things like right here I see, I kind of actually want it to be a little bit shorter, so we're gonna try and match it up to what this piece looks like. And I do notice that the navy here is a little bit darker, so I'm gonna select this. I'm gonna use the eyedropper tool just to copy that view. All right, so now we have that, and luckily there's only a couple more steps here, and then we'll get back over to look at the progress that Kevin's making on XD. I'm gonna unlock the back layer. I'm gonna press Option and Shift to just drag everything over to create a copy. And I'm gonna use the direct selection to select the background. I'm gonna paste it in front, and I'm going to take a line. Again, like none of this is pen tool. The only time I've ever used a pen tool for these illustrations is just to remove anchors. So I'm gonna select that with the line. I'm gonna go over to the Pathfinder, and I'm gonna hit Divide. And sometimes I'll also hit Trim just in case. And I'll deselect one side of it and hit Delete. And then all I have to do is just click the eyedropper, reselect that, and then I'm also gonna take and bring over these dots to give it a little bit of continuity.
Very cool. And it's like those little things that really give kind of illustrations a lot of personality.
Yeah.
I feel like.
They definitely help it out. They give it a little bit of an extra oomph to it. And like I could sit here and there could be other things I want to do. I even thought about giving it like battle scars, like these pieces, like we're doing battle with each other. And I thought, that might be a little bit too much.
Sure.
But that's basically like how I go about creating a dimensional piece, right? Because think about it, this is where we started off with, and this is where we finished with. And which one would you prefer? You'd prefer the higher definition one than this flat one.
Cool. Yeah, no, I think what you did with the piece is amazing. I think definitely like adding the shadows and the highlights and all those little bits like really bring it to life.
Definitely.
Cool. Yeah. I think I'm ready to like kind of show. So we have the home screen kind of built out, and now I kind of want to focus on building out the match screen. So I guess like we can just go down the list here of like the chessboard, the pieces. So I guess we can just start by kind of going ahead and making a chessboard. And I guess we'll probably make that 40, and then we're gonna kind of make like a checkerboard pattern. We're gonna use a cool feature in Adobe XD that's going to allow us to kind of quickly and easily make this chessboard. So there's this thing called repeat grid. So if you just click it, you can basically just drag it out, and then obviously we don't want any gaps here.
To me, that is the sweetest thing that you could do, is to have something like that where you just click and drag and it automatically does all the work for you.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's like, feels like cheating, but you know.
To answer Michael Kachenberger, hopefully I'm saying that correct. Yeah, because of the fact that different pieces are different heights, they each have different curves and different angles. There's a lot of eyeballing, but there's also other parts of the pieces that would be roughly about the same. So there are aspects of it that I would suggest, keeping it similar in height for shadows, and other parts where it probably needs to be a little bit different. Ooh, he's even bringing in the rounded boards.
Yeah, we're going all in on the rounded corners here. And then we can turn this chessboard into a component. So if we need to make edits to it later on, we'll
especially
be able to.
when you're wanting to show different like piece movements and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. I think it'll come in handy. I'm actually going to drag this off. I don't really like keeping the master components in the documents itself, because you can get into kind of this weird situation where you need to like click through a bunch of things to edit the master component. It's like easier to kind of keep it off to the side, so if you need to edit it, you can. So I'm just going to go ahead and kind of carry over the same sort of color palette that we've established in the home screen. I think it's important to kind of keep consistent colors through an app. You kind of want to be intentional with how you use colors as well. We'll go into that more like as we explore different states of the chessboard.
Yep. I was actually really excited when Kevin mentioned doing a chess app. I always loved chess. I was never that good at it.
Same. I'm actually pretty terrible at chess.
Yeah, I feel like what we should do is we should stop somewhere and try and find a chessboard and just like meet up at the hotel, and like we're working on creating some stuff for tomorrow and trying to beat each other at chess and seeing who's the worst.
Oh, man. That'd be rough.
No problem, Michael.
Cool. So we've got chessboard here. Let's kind of work on the different panels for like the players. So the players in this one will be Rocky and myself.
Going head to head, who will win?
Gotta do this, and then I guess adding some text. I think it's important to have.
Ooh, definitely need some better contrast.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then maybe like maybe I shouldn't do this. Sometimes I get paranoid about doing stuff like that because I won't grab the right color, so I'm just gonna go in and copy the value.
So one thing that you can do, and this is because I use XD, I don't use it for UI UX, but I actually use it a lot to create templates for social media, as well as other branding components. One thing you can do is if you go back over to that first screen and you click on your username and then you click over to the fill.
Yeah.
You can then add, see the plus button? Here, click on the fill.
Okay.
And then rate, yeah.
Oh.
That way you can go ahead and add that on the other things. Perfect. Yes, that's right. I actually had a tip for XD. I feel so proud of myself with that.
No, you probably made this a lot easier for me. And then...
I'm actually proud I got Michael's last name correct the first time. I'm not going to say it again because I'm probably going to butcher it. But I'm really proud of that.
And then we've got this component, which is like user. I guess we'll kind of follow the same naming convention, like inactive. We'll make an active state for this as well. Oh yeah. And then just going through and naming all the stuff, just to keep it organized so I can easily find what I need later on. Yeah, so I think.
Thank you, Katrina.
Oh.
So I'm curious, where did you get Eat Sleep Vector?
Well, Kevin Yang's a really common name, and I couldn't get that on anything. In fact, I have a lot of stories about just like people with the same names. Like when I was in school, there's another Kevin Yang in school, and if you didn't put like the PO box essentially for our addresses, we would get each other's mail all the time. And
Oh, wow.
He would get really cool stuff because I think he did breakdancing, so he'd get like all this cool stuff, and my parents would only send me FAFSA forms for me to fill out, so that felt bad. But then, so when I joined Riot, you're handed out your email, and it's a standard format. It's the first letter of your first name followed by your last name. But then when I got my email, it wasn't that format, so I was like, oh yeah, there's just another Kevin Yang here. And so eventually, like after some time, we ran into each other, and it was the same Kevin Yang from school.
You're kidding.
No.
It was the exact same Kevin Yang
Yep, same.
from all those years ago. That's really awesome.
Yep. So he's, I think he's a little triggered by it, and so am I, because we get added to each other's meetings all the time. Not too much anymore because it's been 2 years, but in the beginning, definitely got on each other's like calendars and Google Docs all the time, and I don't know. He's a data scientist, so I don't know anything about data science. So I'd be like,
Well, do you guys have at least like different middle names?
I don't know his middle name, but I would hope so. Yeah.
That'd be funny if you guys had the same letter.
I don't think it would be that funny, but it would just be chaotic, you know? It'd be
Yeah. So it looks like Betty's asking, what is your process to use this for social media templates? What's the benefit over another Adobe app? So there is another Adobe app, Adobe Spark, and I tend to use XD for my templates because I'm able to customize it a lot more and do a lot of iterations and see what works and what doesn't. So on my computer, I actually have a XD file that has all of my Instagram stories. I also use it to create splash screens for YouTube videos or live stream videos that I create, and it's a good way to keep everything that I have created in one single place. And originally, I didn't use XD for this. I used Photoshop for it, and the biggest problem was that it would create giant file sizes, like half a gigabyte or even a couple of gigabytes in size. But XD, everything is vector, and so it's so much smaller and more condensed.
Cool. So we're at a point where we kind of have the skeleton of the chess app sort of down. So I guess we should probably work to put in the pieces next. I think the best way to maybe go about it is to go ahead and create like components for each of the ones that we're gonna need. So we're gonna have like white and black.
Yeah. And we can just, for now, we can just use circles to represent those. And we can, when we work on this tomorrow, we can have the actual pieces.
Correct, yeah.
And of course, it's gonna look like checkers, but it's not checkers, guys. You know, don't worry. We got a question for Kevin here.
Yeah.
Do you prefer Adobe XD over Sketch? If so, why? And also, what's up?
So one of the biggest benefits of Adobe XD actually is it transitions to After Effects super well. I think when I used, hi everyone, hi Mercedes, hi Ka, hi Anna, hi everybody. I would always have to do a lot of cleanup in Sketch for animating in After Effects, and most of the things would have to be PNGs. And anything that I wanted to be live, I would typically recreate in After Effects. I think if we can get to that portion, it'll be super cool. Basically, you just go to File, Export, After Effects, and
I didn't even know that.
almost everything stays live, which is really nice because if you want to animate text or if you want to animate like paths, it's a lot easier. So I think if you haven't given XD a shot, I would definitely give it a shot. I think it totally depends on your workflow and what you're trying to do.
Yeah, it's the one interesting.
What's up, Cal?
Oh, I remember Cal meeting him at Adobe Max. Yeah, I think that one thing with XD is just the continuity, right?
Yeah.
The fact that you're able to use it across so many different software, and it's just easier to use, it's easier to share and everything, especially when you're working with people who don't have some of these other softwares and everything. And I also think, the fact that XD is included in like the entire suite also helps. I'd also like to let everybody know that we have less than 30 minutes before we're going to be going through some design feedback for today's challenge. So if you guys haven't yet, please definitely submit. I'm actually going to take a look here and see if there is any new submissions. And I think there's quite a few that are coming through, and it seems like a lot of people are giving each other some great feedback too. So that's really cool. The fact that not only are people sharing what they're creating, but everyone else is also offering their feedback too, which that speaks a lot to the creative community as a whole.
Yeah. So right now, what I'm doing is I'm basically creating a dummy component for each piece essentially. So it's, as you can see, it's going to be super useful here, right? Because I have all these pawn components. So if I wanted to like add like a P or something, like it's already applied to all the instances. So when we do sub in the chess piece, like we can still design and illustrate like in parallel, which is super cool. It's going to save you a lot of time, especially like if you're working in a team. If one person's like working on the UI and one person's like working on the assets, you don't have to wait on that person to like finish everything before you get everything in.
Because you can basically replace it later.
Yeah, you can replace them all at once, and you're not gonna have to go into each artboard like you're not gonna have to go into like each individual artboard and do a lot of asset replacing like manually.
Yeah, I think if I'm actually going to, while you're going through and you're adding all these, I'm actually going to jump back into Illustrator, and I'm going to show, because one thing that we talked a lot about earlier was color. We talked about the way that you go about color correcting in Photoshop, and one thing that I love to do is I'm going to take it's a Roark. I'm going to take the Roark. I always forget what these pieces are called, but luckily Kevin reminded me earlier today what they're called. One of the things I love to do is I love to try so many different options for color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump back into my CC library. I'm just going to grab some color themes for us to try out. Let's see, one of my favorite themes here. Get another navy blue. Let's do 2 more. Okay, we'll grab this one, and let's just do 1. We'll do this one. Okay, so one thing that I love to do, and I've done a couple of YouTube videos on this, is I love to use this nice feature that a lot of people don't know about, which is called Recolor artwork. And so what we can do is, if we have color themes, we can actually click on color themes and it will recolor what we have. And there's a little button here where you can actually do randomly recolor, and it will use those color palettes to randomly recolor the artwork. So I actually like this one right here, this red piece. So I'm going to take this, and I'm just going to move a copy of it, and we're going to keep recoloring the artwork and seeing what else we create. So I believe I used this. So I'm just going to keep doing this, keep clicking the recolor, just to see like what pops up. Sometimes like you can go through and you can do this 100 times and nothing solid pops up. And then other times you can do it and something spectacular, pops up. And it seems like a lot of people did not know about this feature, which that makes me excited. It makes me excited that you're seeing something that you didn't know previously. And you know what? Look at that. I actually like that. So we have a red piece and we have a white piece. I think that works. But you know what? We're going to go through. I don't know if this is going to work right, but we're going to create a copy up here and we're going to try and recolor both of these at the same time using another one of these themes. I don't know if it's going to work properly. We'll just see. So you can kind of see like we're seeing everything switching a little bit. It's not working the best, but this is even a solid direction here. And what I'll do is I'll play around with this for a while and I'll create different types and see what works and what doesn't. Cars, I'm on Discord right now. Well, not right now, but I was. So what I do is with these colors, we'll choose this one. I don't always keep these at face value. Like I will go through and change them. So for instance, I don't like how our highlights on this piece have gotten dark. So I'm going to click in here, select these, and I'm just going to play with the color a bit. I might actually just go ahead and just change this to white. And there we go. So I think like both of these work perfectly with this. So this is like a fun way that you can go through and recolor your artwork. And you can use this not just for doing these like chess pieces. I use it for any type of larger illustrations that I use. In fact, the last time I was on Adobe Live here in San Francisco, I created a Cyclops poster, and I went through and created, later on after I finished it, probably about 50 different color variations. And so I'm going to continue playing with this, but if we want to jump over to Kevin, he actually has some cool little pieces to show. Mm-hmm. Switch over to XD. There we go.
Yeah, so we've got a few of the pieces in, and I just kind of wanted to show you how to kind of replace some of the assets really quickly. So, for example, here, I've already kind of made the component from the time before, before we hopped over to Rocky, and all you have to basically, I'm gonna hide the fill, and then I'm gonna bring back the piece essentially. And if you notice, it replaces it in each of the components. So if I scroll back over to the chessboard, right now we have the rook filled in, and this is kind of why it's good to work with components a lot of the times, because when you're designing in a team or something, it lets you work alongside someone a lot better. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put the rest of the pieces in, and we can go ahead and do some of the cool states if
Well, we've got a little over 20 minutes before we're going to be doing the design feedback. So I think we have time if you want to continue.
Yeah, I can
doing
keep.
that. Yeah,
we can keep jamming on the states.
Yeah, and I think it'd be really cool if maybe, and this is me talking about functionality that we're probably not even going to focus on in this, but it would be cool if maybe the person who is using the app can change the colors of it. So it's not just one color throughout every single experience. So for instance, if my favorite color is blue,
You can have a blue
board and blue pieces. So that makes more sense of the stuff that I'm creating in here. So I think that would be a pretty cool thing that we could possibly do. Who knows, maybe we might even use this opportunity to be like, hey, is there any mobile developers, and let's create a chess app.
Yeah, that'd be fun. So maybe I can work on maybe what like a piece would look like if it got taken or something.
Yeah.
Or yeah. Okay. So I think the first thing that we should do is maybe duplicate the artboard and then rename it. So instead of match start, it's like Rocky's move or something like that. And let's kind of think about some of the things that we would have to change about the UI to make this make sense. So first thing is like maybe we like time box it, and we have, and so now you're kind of like, you have like maybe a minute, maybe each person has a minute to make a move, so this will count down. If you notice back to this screen, we kind of use this bar to kind of denote like, hey, you're matchmaking. I think this is a cool opportunity to kind of repeat that pattern in this component. So notice how there's like a color change, right? So what we're gonna do is duplicate this component, and we're gonna create a different state of it. So first I'm gonna ungroup it, and then remake the component and say like player black move. Oh, I guess let's delete this. And we're basically gonna mirror what's going on with this button. So we have the background color change, so we can do that, and then we're gonna add this blue bar to this state, and then
I really like that. That's really cool.
yeah, I think it's just a great way to like keep consistent, you know, across the whole experience. And now we can basically just drop this in here. We can do that, and then put Rocky's name back in here. And his elo. And then obviously none of his pieces have been taken yet, so we basically just go in and change the opacity to 0. The good part about components too is you can override part of it. You just can't change like the overall layout, but you can change the value of certain things, so we can just turn it off. So there we go. So we have like basically a state where now Rocky, oh yeah, we can also.
So I'm actually curious, I think, shouldn't it be something where the pieces that are under my name are actually your pieces? So it's showing like what pieces I've captured.
Oh yeah, we could do that too. Like I was thinking like
Showing like how many pieces of mine have been taken?
Yeah, it kind of keeps everything on, I don't know, I guess it's up to like, we could ask the audience like what.
Yeah, so here's a nice little question. What do you guys think? Should we have under the player's name the pieces that we've captured, or the pieces that have been captured from us? I'm curious to hear what the chat thinks.
Yeah, so essentially, should these pieces be white or black underneath?
Yeah, what do you guys think? White or black? And it'll probably take a minute to flood that. I think though, like just seeing like what you created here in such a short amount of time is just spectacular.
Yeah, I mean, I think just using components and kind of using the repeat grid tool, you can really rapidly build something that's pretty cool. You know? I also think that we use SF rounded for the typeface. I think it really fit because of the rounded corners that we use. Like, I feel like it all ties together pretty nicely.
I think we should also say that, you know, you didn't create all of these little pieces right here. These were things that you had created beforehand that you dropped into here.
Yeah, and if we wanted to do more piece creation, we could also do like different states. So I was actually thinking about moving some of these pieces. Let's go ahead and. Oh, so people are saying captured. All right, so looks like you're on the money. We'll go ahead. Quickly change all of these to white. I guess I should change these too, huh? But for our purposes, we'll just.
Yeah, it seems to be unanimous. Everyone's.
Damn. I know Chris plays a little bit of chess. He was talking to me about it earlier when we met up. I'm a little scared to play him though. I feel like he's been playing a lot. Cool.
So I have to ask, how do you feel about your first time being, live in front of these cameras and creating? Like, how does it feel? Give like the people, watching like a little bit inside, of what's going on up here.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm pretty nervous, but it's been a lot of fun. I do really enjoy making things. It's been a big part of my life, so hopefully you guys have enjoyed kind of watching me piece things together. Like, I think I'm also like confused a lot of times when I'm making things. I feel like there's a big misconception that like I know what I'm doing like a lot, whereas it's more just like I'm figuring it out as I go. So I think for any people out there who kind of feel the same way, it's okay. I think most people are just trying to kind of piece everything together, because like you're always learning like about new trends, new software, new workflows. It never feels stagnant to me, but that's also like the most exciting part of design to me. And even this is new, like just making stuff in front of all of y'all, working with Rocky on stream and everyone here at Adobe Live, so.
Yeah, and I actually have on my screen pulled up your Behance page, and it's interesting just to see, because you do a lot of illustration, you share a lot of illustration work, and there's some things that you create, I'm just like, I just like it. When I first saw this and I saw just like all of the different interactions and everything, I was just like, oh wow, this is really cool to see.
Well, thanks, Rocky.
Like you're an amazing illustrator, and it's cool. Like I can see a theme because I've seen a lot of different chess pieces.
Oh yeah.
Even though you don't play chess, I see a lot of stuff. Like even when we jump into your Instagram, you can see here like these are some of the pieces that he created ahead of time. And if I remember correctly, see, like look, there's a Roark right there.
Yeah,
you have an obsession with chess. I see that.
I watch a lot of chess though. It's I think it's fascinating to me. I don't know. I tend to watch like a lot of like chess or poker, or I think it's just like the math major in me. So fun fact, I was a math major.
Oh really?
Before doing design stuff, yeah. So that was a weird period of my life. But yeah, I think it also carries over to like illustration or design. Like I actually don't consider myself like an artist. I feel much more like a scientist. Like
That's interesting.
It's like super analytical to me, and it's like even when I'm designing, I don't really drag stuff around. As you guys probably have seen, I type values into like the bars because that's just how I like to organize things in my mind. So yeah, I don't know. How about you? What's been your journey? I mean, I know a bit about it, but for the stream, like, why don't you talk about like how you got into it? Like,
like I've always been a creative. I do consider myself an artist.
Really?
Which a lot of people, there's that debate, right, between being an artist and being a designer. And what I do, because I'm an illustrator and a designer, I see my both of those fields meshing together perfectly. And for me, I was always a doodler, I was always a drawer, and it wasn't until, and I've shared this in my podcasts and in other videos, but it wasn't until I signed up for a graphic arts class, in that transition from middle school to high school, that I finally even learned about design. The only Adobe software I knew was Adobe Acrobat. That was all I knew. And when I remember still the most embarrassing part of that first day of school, in that class was the teacher had us write down what design software we knew. And I put MS Paint. Yeah, that's all I knew was MS Paint. And so it was interesting to see that and go from, because that was, I think, 2013, 2014. And so now it's been, 15 years, or not 14, 2004, 2003, 2004. So it's been about 15 years since that. That's how long I've been using the Adobe software, it's how long I've been working in design. And so it's really interesting to see that.
And your workflow and the way that you design's probably changed significantly over those 15 years, right? Just
Oh,
as,
yeah.
like
Just how I'll tell you this, like what I learned early on was not about how to make things, beautiful or pretty. I learned more about how to use the software, how to quickly, learn things and push things. And so I like that player white is thinking. uh, and it was really interesting to learn that way, where I wasn't necessarily getting a good aesthetics. I was getting better with my drawing and illustration, but I wasn't getting better with my design. And it was actually through the implementation, through the practice, I got better over time.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I definitely had like more of a off the beaten path to design. Like, I don't know if anyone remembers, like before Reddit, there's a bunch of forums on the internet. Like,
Yep.
if you either played games or if you just wanted to learn about something, you'd have to go to some forum somewhere out there and in order to learn about it, you'd have to go to a forum, read some sticky threads or whatever. But anyways, like when people post on a forum, they have this thing that goes beneath their post. It's like a
Their
rectangle. Signature. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how I got my start. I made probably like 2,000 or 3,000 of them from middle school and high school.
Oh, God.
And I didn't even do anything. I basically just ripped images off of Google Images, cut them out, and then hit them with grunge brushes and wrote my name on them. So that's kind of like how I got my start. I honestly didn't know if it definitely wasn't a very viable career path, so I didn't know how to take that and turn it into like what I do. But honestly, like when I'm posting stuff, I still feel that way. Like I love making like little tidbits of design and kind of sharing it. That's kind of, I kind of feel like I'm doing the same stuff today, just in like a different form.
Yeah, it's really interesting because it's like when you talk to people and you find out like where they started using designs and everything.
Yeah.
Senior forum signature designer.
Yeah, GFX.
No, because I remember, creating MySpace profiles and,
Oh, yeah.
Doing all that stuff. And oh my God, working with bands, trying to create mixtape covers or, trying to create a customized theme for their actual, like site and everything. And it was just crazy how much stuff that you actually create back then. And now you look at everything and it's like, people can easily create a website using, the Adobe software or, put something up on Wix or Squarespace and everything. So it's really cool to see how far we've come.
Yeah. How are we looking on time?
So we have 7 minutes before the actual design challenge, before we go through the design feedback for the challenge. So if you guys haven't yet, you have about 6 minutes and 45 seconds to actually get any submissions into the Discord for the challenge. And we're going to go through and we're just going to look at and see what you guys have submitted. And so I'm actually, while we're talking about the challenge, I'm actually going to read the challenge description for you guys. If you guys haven't seen it yet, if you're not able to submit anything today, that's okay. We're going to be back here tomorrow. So we're going to be back here again at noon tomorrow. We're going to be going till 2 o'clock, and we'll probably be going through and looking at some of the designs to give some feedback, as well as tomorrow we're going to be giving a little bit of a portfolio review. So definitely be here tomorrow for that. But for today's design challenge, visitors to a travel website are viewing a small portion of the experience. Expand on the search experience with categories, filters, and recommendations to encourage website exploration. And the cool thing is that why I love these types of challenges is that, I was chatting with Gus here at Adobe Live earlier, and the whole purpose of them is to hopefully give you guys the opportunity to create a full-blown case study of a body of work. So you guys can put something up on Behance, and who knows, maybe you might even get featured into one of their categories. So I always suggest that when you guys tune in for these lives, don't just sit there and listen to us talking or rambling on, which I know at least I do. I rant and rave and ramble on, so I apologize. But also, get involved with it. Do these challenges, or maybe even just try to create your own version of what you see, Kevin creating or myself creating. Who doesn't love Gus? Gus is awesome. He's just sitting there in the corner smirking at me and everything. Gus is awesome. Okay, we have less than 5 minutes before the design feedback. So again, if you guys haven't, definitely submit some new work. We're gonna start off from the bottom and work our way up and look at some of the things that people have been sharing. I'm excited to see it. I know that there is some really cool stuff going up here. And like I said earlier, it's also really cool because not only are we giving you guys feedback, but you guys are also giving each other feedback, which I honestly think is spectacular. The fact that, through this Adobe Live, you're not just hearing feedback from, the people who are on the screen looking at you guys right now. You guys are also hearing feedback from other people who are tuning in and also submitting things. So I think that's really cool. So do you want to talk about what you're doing here?
Yeah, so I'm just kind of working through like a move state almost, like what it would be like to tap on a piece and see like the available moves.
Okay.
So that's kind of what I'm building out right now, is just kind of carrying over this blue thing. I'm kind of feeling this blue thing, like we're just going to kind of make it so that everything that someone's doing kind of shows up blue, I think would be cool. So so basically when you tap on a piece, maybe you kind of see a blue border show around the piece, as well as
showing where they can go.
Yeah, and then like maybe we make this a little smaller. It's kind of big. And then having like dots on all the available kind of potential places where one could move, I think could be pretty cool. So I guess it's kind of boring with a pawn. I guess we could try to do it with like
I would try and do it with the knight, the black knight.
Okay.
That way you can show like what the use case would look like, if you can take that piece.
Sure. No, that's a good idea. Let's do
oh yeah, Michael's right. It would be cool to connect some voice commands to the app. So if you create a prototype for this, being able to just like say, knight to, I can't even see the bottom, something 4.
Oh yeah,
knight to queen 4.
Yeah.
Or king. I can never remember which one's which.
Yeah, we can basically show all the pieces, and then so we want this to take the pawn. Yeah, so I think in this case, right, like it makes sense because we can have so basically these are all the available moves that the knight has to make, and if you can take a piece, you can just I think just wrapping it in the border would be cool. So I like differentiating between like if there's no piece on a particular square that you're moving to versus like if there is a piece.
Yeah.
Cool.
Knight to e5. That would be pretty cool to see that. Okay, guys, we're getting into about 1 minute left. Got about 1 minute and some change left, and then we're going to be reviewing some awesome work, which I have to say there are a lot of cool things on here that I've already seen. I actually did a little bit of work on a travel website once before, very small bit of work, so I know how hard that can be to come up with new material. But we have less than a minute to go. I'm actually excited. It would be really cool to actually, I don't know if you could, but prototype this out to where it was an actual functional chess app, and you could actually go and say, knight to e5, and
That'd be so cool.
yeah. And I think like we've already talked about this. We're talking about going through tomorrow, and I'm actually going to be creating or attempting to create maybe a badge for this, and you're going to be continuing working on the functionality and maybe some more elements of this as well.
Yeah, I mean, I really want to kind of pull this into After Effects and show people like how to make this stuff move. I think people would be.
I think that would be cool.
I think we could do it. I think given the time that we spend today, we can get it done.
Oh yeah. All right. So we are at the final design feedback, or not the final, but today's feedback on this. Let's see. I see that there's already people giving some feedback in here. So we're gonna go up to, I don't know if let's see. I'm guessing this is, oh, that's pretty cool. I really like that blend mode, how it goes from the photo straight into the black.
Yeah.
Rewind it. I think my favorite part there is the fact that the CTA actually transforms into the actual search.
No, it's really cool, and it makes sense because the plane is like flying to the right. You know, I think that's actually, there's a very cool interaction that can happen, especially like
maybe if there's like, and this is so old school, but it actually like sound effect, right? Mm-hmm. So where like you're like shh.
I also think it's not necessary to have the search icon on the left. I think it kind of creates a little bit of ambiguity as to like which icon you should kind of interact with almost. Like it feels.
I think like if you put it here, like on the CTA before it moves outward, I think that's a good idea.
That could be a good solve.
But when it goes outward, you probably might not need it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear. Like I think the airplane is clear enough. And I think overall like the button is like once you can message it, like, you know, you have discovered new places. I think you could be like search for new places to discover. That's like an easy way to kind of clear up that ambiguity if you think that it's necessary. But I love the concept of this.
Yeah, and I especially love the fact that once you search it in, you can then in that same area put in the date that you're heading out, the date you're coming back, and how many people you're going to be traveling with.
Yeah,
I think that's really really cool. Okay, let's exit out of that. Let's see. Here's another one. I can't even pronounce it. I apologize. Can you pronounce that?
Abhishek.
Yeah.
Abhishek.
That's much better than I could do it. Okay. Ooh.
Whoa. Got some parallax.
I know. Okay. I like that. I think that it would be cool if right here, like you had maybe a CTA that once you clicked it, then that scrolled up. I think that would be cool. Like maybe having a title and saying, you know, like search for your destination. Because when I see this, when I saw like, you know, just this floating, I don't know. I love it. I love this interaction, but I think there needs to be something up here. What do you think?
Yeah, or it could be like you could put like this could be like the loading screen of the website. Like like it just ticks down from like it's like 1%, 2%, 10%. So people know that they're waiting on something, and then once it's 100%, it auto.
So have like a loading a loading bar or a loading icon to show that it's coming in.
Yeah,
I really like that.
And then in terms of the search bar, I think you might want to put like an outline on it or change the color on it, you know, just to make sure you get enough contrast.
I think there might be almost enough contrast. I think having this gradient on the button, I think that to me makes it might be a visual cue. I think like seeing like what we're seeing on the screen there versus seeing what I'm seeing on my screen here.
Oh, yeah.
I think it has a good enough contrast.
Oh, yeah. This screen is just killing it.
Yeah, the screen here behind us is killing it. But I think also having this gradient here on the search button, I think it's playing with the optics to me, because it makes it seem like that there's also a fade here because of how these images in the background look. But I think that could just be me. But I think I love the interaction, and I think like the fact that you're going beyond just like showing how you're going through the search, but how like someone comes to the page. I think that's amazing. All right. Let's see. Okay, here we got another one. Let's do, whoops, not Pinterest. Okay. I'll just do the old-fashioned zoom in. Okay, I see. I think I love how this is laid out, right? It's laid out like a traditional travel site where you have like the different options: flights, hotels, car rentals, bundles. I wonder if maybe before you come to this, or maybe if there's an option, because I like this here. I like these, you know, based on your history, based on your most recent trip, check out this new place. I wonder if there was just a search for a destination, and then once you search that destination, something like this pops up.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna echo what Rocky said here, just because I think from a user perspective, you want to kind of break things into manageable chunks for people to, right? Because there's a lot of decisions, right? Before even coming to like you have to decide, do I even want to search for a flight? Where do I want to go? Yeah, so
things like that.
I think this is a beautifully laid out screen. I think just doing a little bit of work just before this will, one, make it, you'll probably be able to maybe reduce the number of things on the screen by a little bit. And you're just gonna be able to break things down into manageable chunks for people to intake. But I love the colors, I love the layout, and the cards are really cool here too.
Yeah, I really like the cards. I will say that the color, it trips me out just a little bit, but I do like that. All right, let's zoom out again. Let's see, and that was Kendall G. All right, we have Erog. Okay, so we got. So I think I like the image back here. And I kind of like how this Mad Venture is like, she's trying to go through and do this effect to make it stand out. I think that if we decrease the search bar a bit, I think it will feel more balanced. Right now, it doesn't feel as balanced. I think if you decrease the width of the search bar, maybe by half, and maybe add a CTA in there, I think that will work. I think one thing that I'm also having problems with is having up here the adventure knocked out the same way it is here, Mad Venture, because I have there we go. Yeah, see, like you can even see that there's an M there because it's so, the contrast ratios isn't working the best there. But
you also might want to knock down the yellow a bit, because you have to think like, what's the most important thing on this page, right? It's probably not the bar that says Mad Venture, it's probably the search bar. So you want to, I would even maybe tone down the Mad Venture like type a little bit to really make the search bar like pop from the background.
I actually, what I would do is I would make the nav bar black and make Mad Venture yellow.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, because like I agree with you. Having that yellow is so powerful that it's like I instantly want to keep looking at the top versus looking at where we want to go. But if you change the actual logo to being yellow, I think that will work. But I think like you can definitely keep the same knockout treatment. I would just bring it down and short and make it a little bit smaller. I think that will definitely work. All right, let's check out another one. Ooh, Thailand. It's Guido? Some of these names, whew. I mean, I can't talk because sometimes people mess up my name, so. Oh,
this is
okay,
cool.
Let's rewind this and check it out. Oh, okay.
I love how the background kind of changes to match the card too. Like it really feels like you're exploring like a different place. I think that's really nice.
Okay, I like that. So like when you click on that, it fills that in. I wonder too, I know that we're just talking about this like the search and everything here, but what would be really cool is whenever you click on these and you add that like search, maybe below the fold, there's some sort of information that pops up for that or shows information for those areas, like Chiang Mai or Bangkok and everything. I think like that would be really cool. But I do agree. I love the fact that when you click on these, the background changes, and it changes to that image. I think that maybe there's also some a little bit of an issue with just like how some of these images, if maybe it might be good to have like the next one highlighted in a certain way to help. And I think that, and by the way, I apologize if I'm taking over this critique.
No.
I think that it might be good to have, just like how when we go from Chiang Mai being here, and then we go to it being there, you don't see that, right? You don't have like this. Maybe should switch to Chiang Mai, maybe have the reviews or have a little bit of information there even, because you can't even tell that you're like clicking that and you're like, okay, the image changed, but what is it doing right here? So I think that might be a good option. Do you have any other thoughts or?
No, I think that like, I think having the search bar change is really good, but also I think it should be preloaded, especially if you're gonna go with this pattern. Like from the very beginning, I think having the user have that connection of like this card is selected, and then having the search bar be pre-populated might be, because I think if you go back to the beginning, you have the first card out, right? So technically, like, since you're already highlighting here, like just putting Bangkok in for search, because it was a little bit.
So you're thinking because we have the card right here, going ahead and loading the information right like in this area.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that would be good too, because like when you just see this and then when you click into it, it disappears and it just shows the image and it changes to the search here.
So now it says Bangkok, but you're highlighting Chiang Mai. So I think it should be like right now it should say Chiang Mai on the search bar.
I see what you mean by the highlight, because this is larger. Than this. So I see that.
So that'd be honestly my biggest feedback for this. But I think overall, like the navigation is really cool. It really tries to get people to discover like new places and potentially travel there.
And I agree with what Michael says on certain images. Like right here, it works, but in certain other ones, like it might get a little lost or it might become too intense with the colors. But I think, like having the menu. Oh, okay, wait, it's the menu up here. That's what he's talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it completely gets lost there. So maybe having some sort of overlay on top might also help.
It's a good call out, yeah.
Let's see. Ooh, I love these photos and everything. They're just so crisp. Ooh, look at what they're doing there.
Yeah. This is really cool.
See, and you know what? This kind of goes back to that last one, right?
Yeah.
Where we were showing this progression of these different tabs. Oh, and there's even like the search features up there. I think if I had to give, like, for one, I love this. I love that there is this tree of different things like couples honeymoons, beach, wildlife safari, city destinations, history and culture, adventures, food and drink. You have all these things here. I actually like that. The one suggestion I would have is you have the search all the way up here, and the point of this is to have a search front facing. So maybe under adventures, maybe there's a search bar to where you can search like adventures, like for instance, going back to that last example, Thailand. You have adventures, you can search Thailand, and you can search adventures in Thailand or something like that.
It's the search bar was definitely like part of the challenge, and I think like making it more fleshed out is probably a good idea. But for some reason in this instance, I feel like it's fine because of the nature of the site. It's not
That's
really
true.
you're not really booking flights. You're like trying to
you're
browsing
packages.
Vacation packages. So
That's true.
It's like almost I think it's actually okay in this instance because I'm in a different frame of mind. Like when I saw this, I think you did a really good job visually of like getting me in the mindset of but like when I go to the site, my first thought isn't that I want to book a flight, it's that I want to go on a vacation. So
Yeah.
So I think it's okay, but so I really like it, but I do think maybe there's an opportunity to kind of bundle the thing on the right, like the menu with the beaches and the wildlife, with the search like maybe pull the search underneath
Yeah.
that menu, and it like pre-populates depending on if you have beach or wildlife selected. So like if you have beach selected and then like a search bar underneath it, like everything you type will just recommend beaches. Like it'll
Yeah.
and then if you have like restaurants or food and drink selected, there won't be any beaches like pre-populated in the list. It'll be like all food and drink stuff.
Yeah, and I also think that it might be good to increase the size of the text, because right now there's so much real estate, and yet, like, for instance, especially in this one, we have beach and then we have a small little bit of text here, and this it can get so lost, like depending on the contrast.
Yeah.
So like here it's, this it works good, this it works okay, but this is the one I feel like if I just scan this really quickly, I wouldn't see that text. And I think that might be a little bit of an issue to think about. I think like increasing the size of this, I think this is probably maybe 60 point right now. I would actually increase it to like 70 point. And this one is probably maybe about 24. And I would bump it up to 30 just to give it that little bit. And I think with italics, you're gonna run into a little bit of contrast there, contrast issues. Okay. Let's see. Just want to make sure. Okay, we got we'll do I think about like 10 minutes left of this. All right, let's do. There's no way for me to pronounce your name. Okay. So he included a checkout experience. I think maybe I've gotten spoiled with the last few, which have like a lot of interactions of like moving images. I think it would be really nice to, see like what the experience is moving along this axis. I do think one thing that's a little bit, and you might be able to talk on this more, is the fact that you have these dots here and you're traveling up and down these, and you can see there's an icon down here that says you move left to right.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit unclear. I think either the hand should be vertical or the dots on the right should be horizontal.
Yeah, I think that I agree with you. I think either switching this to where the arrows are pointing up and down, if you're gonna have this interaction, or you just take that, make it horizontal, and maybe putting it below the text. I also there's so much
there's so much leading.
Leading, there you go.
Leading.
I always get those tracking and leading mixed
Yeah.
up. My typography professor would kill me with that. But you can drive a truck through these. And so I think if you like decrease the leading on there, I think that would help. But overall, I do like it. I just wish that there was a little bit more interaction here.
I think, making the interaction a little bit more clear, whether you need to go left or right or up or down, or if the intent was you could do both. I think maybe Mount Kilimanjaro, you can scroll left through all the Mount Kilimanjaro photos.
Yeah.
But I think that you should maybe rethink the design so that you're not going in both directions. I think the fact that it's a little bit ambiguous means that you probably need to resolve it using text. Like instead of having the hand with the horizontal arrows, it's a button or something that says like click here to go to the next Mount Kilimanjaro image.
Well, I think we've also gotten kind of used to the fact that when you see these ellipses, that you can click through those ellipses.
Yeah.
So I think like if this was the first time that someone was using this type of interaction, you would need that. But I think like if you are using the arrow keys, then I think it's okay. I don't think you actually have to show that. But yeah, and it could be something where maybe you don't even need this. Maybe it only shows up if you start clicking through, and maybe it's just a natural scroll where it's scrolling through the images every like few seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move to the next one. Okay. So this is a little bit more straightforward, search here. I think. What are your first impressions?
So something I like is I like that you're kind of framing the search against like a background. I'm assuming as it changes, the image behind the search bar will change. If that's the intent, like I think I gave this feedback before, you need to pre-populate the search bar with like, I think that's New York City. So I would say maybe going for something like that.
Oh, it's Chicago.
Oh, it's Chicago.
Yeah, you can see the Willis Tower in
Oh,
the background.
Yeah. So instead of destination, it should probably be pre-populated with Chicago, because I think if you're going to use this in a case study, you want to make sure that the thing that you're showing kind of like makes like there's a clear connection between like what's in the search bar versus like what's in the background.
It might be a little. Or are you talking about like, so if you search Chicago, it should change to an image of Chicago, or are you thinking if you're looking for a hotel, it should show a hotel?
Oh no, I guess I was just saying like the place and the photo. Like you don't have to
Okay.
show the hotel, but just like the location
Okay.
matches up.
Yeah, the one thing I noticed, and this was after a moment, that it's actually highlighted right here, hotels.
Oh.
Yeah, you can barely tell. I think if you had like maybe a line underneath, because it's showing like it looks like a strike through. If you have like a line underneath that really highlights that would actually be probably better. And I think since you're highlighting hotels here, maybe it says, it says visit America, and instead of to experience it fully, it says, some sort of copy dealing with like a hotel, like, and stay a while, in a comfortable hotel or something like that. Because right now it's not showing, it's not calling out that. It's calling out visiting and traveling, but it's not calling out what you have here that's highlighted, which is hotels.
Yeah, I actually didn't notice that the hotel tab was like selected.
Yeah, it's a little hard to read. Yeah.
I think either doing the line treatment or some kind of color treatment, I think would be really valuable here. Also, just the messaging, I think, like a big part of UI design is actually messaging. I think it's a big part of
the UX part of it, right? The experience part of it is messaging, because you can have an amazing, spectacular web experience, and yet the copy falls flat and it completely ruins it. So copy is part of it, and it's something where you're not going to get this on the first go. I'm not a copywriter. I have tons of friends who are copywriters, and they don't always even get it correct on the first go. I will say this though, I do love the colors of this. I love the branding. I think though that there is one problem, and this is just me being nitpicky on colors. I think that the navigation matches the photo, but it's actually a completely different blue than the like slash behind getaway. And that's just me. Like I'm very nitpicky on color, but I think like if you change that up, I really like this, and I would be excited to see what the next rendition of this looked like.
Actually, a cool branding thing that you could do is see how there's a slash behind getaway. Maybe if hotels is selected, there's a slash behind hotel,
I like
the
that.
exact same slash, I think.
Yeah, change it up to where these are black, and then have that slash. Ooh, I like that. That's a good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we have time for maybe one more. Let's go with this one. We might be able to do one more after this. Okay, let's see. So I see like you're with like for instance, the branding here, explore, and using that then in explore more or explore now. I think that's really interesting. I think one thing I would suggest, and you can agree or disagree, is I think you need some sort of splash of color on the CTA, specifically the search flight. Whether that's a different blue or maybe even like some sort of like magenta, because it, like, especially in this photo here, it gets kind of lost because the photo is kind of dark and busy right at that bottom, and then we have this here. So
no, I think making the CTA like more vibrant would be good here. Also, I would tweak the ordering of what you have in the Explore New menu. So you choose where you're leaving from, and then you choose where you're going, and then like you have like a return flight or just like a or you're just doing like a
Yeah.
one flight, I think you should make that choice before you choose the places.
Yeah.
I think it makes a little bit more sense because also from like once you have the user decide that, you know what to do with the modal. Like you don't want to have the user like type something out and then choose one option and then the modal changes a lot and then they have to like kind of re-put in some information.
So unfortunately, we have to cut it at that because we're basically at end time now. I don't know about you guys. I had a blast, Kevin.
Yeah, it was really
good?
fun.
Was it
Yeah.
fun?
It was fun.
You know, join us tomorrow because we're going to be right back here at noon to 2 p.m. Pacific time. And we're going to have a lot of fun working on some more stuff with the app. And tomorrow we're going to be doing portfolio reviews. So keep on cranking out all the amazing work that you guys are doing. And we'll see you back here tomorrow.
See you back here tomorrow.